2025's Voidbreaker got patched in November. We will have a quick look at the notes in a sec. The game is on Steam and Game Pass, but still in its preview/beta stage. My name is of course Couch Coop, and I thought I'd seen all the early variants on stages, but this one, no grenades, everything's on fire. Voidbreaker was one of my favourite indie games of last year. I love the idea of it being a first person and roguelike. You might have played RoboQuest. It feels like a far more rawer, quicker, faster, more sci-fi version of that, to be honest. The Chaos Terminal update features quite a lot of interesting stuff, most of which doesn't affect me because it's about getting to endgame and other variables and making the game more difficult. I actually struggle with getting to the first boss at this stage, #Returnal. I am interested in some of these tweaks and fixes. Adding better weapon optics in general, usability is definitely welcome. You've got ultra-wide support put in the game now. Gamepad navigation feels smoother. I got to play this game literally on day one, and the sensitivity was a bit high. I meddled around with that, but it just did feel a little bit floaty. There seems to be a bit more weight and impact attached to some of the weapons, and of course we get to look at the roadmap. I will be keeping in touch with this game for as long as I can this year, because it is one of my favourite, as said, indie roguelikes. Absalom, I said one of my favourites, so don't get offended. For newcomers to this game, let me just explain what's going on here. Essentially, we are launching into arenas, we are killing everything and getting the reward, and it does the classic roguelike. You get a choice on what direction, you get modules to attach to your weapons, which vastly improve their performance or elemental effect. We also have a huge emphasis on destruction and dissipation of the buildings within the arenas, and they can drop on the enemies, and you can also throw grenades. Now they replenish, they're unlimited. The goal of your whole enemy harvesting mission is to get this yellow status, which will happen if something falls on it. If there's an explosion nearby, you can then retrieve health from whatever you kill, melee or shoot. Housemarque fans, you will see some similarities with some of those boss projection patterns with the firing arcs. My Red Faction Guerrilla crew will see some parallels with that dissipation, and any first person shooter fan will be at home with that slide dodge, which is the length of a small country. It's a hell of a mix. You've also got double jump and you've got a dash anywhere, in air, on ground. It does have to replenish, you cannot spam it, but you're just not short of options when it comes to evading things. A little bit like Doom Eternal actually, with its double jump and dash mechanics. You don't really need to stand still, and there is no way you need to be on the ground for any length of time. I do also quite like this colour scheme. I like the luminous surfaces, feels a little bit like Marathon. All the text and UI is like very futuristic, and I feel I should mention this is made by Stubby Games, which is one guy called Dan. I often put clips of this game on X to people who were bragging about how great AAA games are and how amazing stuff looks. When you start seeing those buildings falling apart and the speed that this game operates, you realise that 5 years down the line, We may not need these massive AAA studios, which isn't such a bad thing. There is that controversial angle about AI helping with development and speeding up various processes. I don't think AI can come up with any decent creative ideas. I think that will always lay with the human. And I do feel bad for Expedition 33 getting all that flack for having like a couple of AI posters on a pillar in the hub. I want some comments on that. My stance is with AI development within video games is if they can make a really damn good video game in a short amount of time that looks absolutely excellent, then I'm behind it. You've only got to be the end user for modern 8th and 9th gen AAA games to realize that there's a problem with these bigger developers. Some stuff's going wrong. It isn't the graphics, because they look incredible and things have never been so lavish on that front. It's something else, and we all know what it is. If it takes the AI revolution to give these companies a boot up the backside, then so be it. I think that's how sick of it we all really are. Sticking on that subject briefly, and I will be off this tangent in a second, Expedition 33 getting all that flack. I don't know if you remember the Callisto Protocol. That had loads of AI developed levels in it. All the wall designs and rooms were made by a machine, and they were bragging about it. They were like, this looks cool, it saved us loads of time to use in other areas of the game. They weren't kicked off any award ceremonies because of it. So anyways, yeah, Dan may have used a bit of AI to help develop this game. Back to the gaming analogies and Voidbreaker, there is also a gravity grab objects and throw them out, and they sit this on the Y button so it doesn't interrupt any of your firing or triggers, and some things are explosive and you are looking for the name of what you've picked up, because it might just be an office chair or it might be a barrel full of thermite. Went back to the pistol as well, which is kind of your starter weapon. You don't technically have to aim down the sights with it. Something felt a little bit smoother, a little bit more controllable. They may have reduced that recoil scatter, and you may have seen the assault rifle footage at the beginning of the video. When I last reviewed this, I couldn't control that gun, hence the sensitivity having to be put down. I couldn't even aim down the sights responsibly and deliver damage. But all that's changed with this new update. It feels a lot more accessible on the weapon firing front. I'm also seeing some mist effects and a few more environmental variants on the different arenas and areas that you're fighting in. And this is one of my more fun phases of looking at roguelikes or reviewing them in beta stage, is that they will start making these adjustments to difficulty, maybe upping the mid bosses, that sort of stuff, to find that gorgeous sweet spot. And I think we're quite close to it in Voidbreaker. Some of you might be familiar with my local co-op and split screen content, and looking at that Borderlands 4 material and looking at this, I am thinking this could easily be put as a split screen, a vertical split. It's not as busy as that game or complicated on the back end. It could totally work. Dan, if you're listening, ask Skynet or whatever AI machine you've got going there to just code in split screen, please. Won't take long. Never say never, listeners. We had Nobody Saves the World go to local co-op, and I couldn't believe that happened, and Cult of the Lamb as well, which is also a roguelike. So fingers crossed on all of that. Dan, no pressure. Does it ever perform badly? Because remember, we're looking at this on the poor old PC, and it rarely chugs frames, but sometimes it gets itself in a bit of a muddle. This is mainly to do with some of that status effect stuff. It doesn't happen too often, and to be honest, an indie game in early access, you will see a bit of that, particularly one of this magnitude. But that is something to keep an eye on, and hopefully we'll see a lot of that smoothed out in the long run. What we also might see in the long run, or for 2026, is a Sony PlayStation 5 version. It's marked up on the store, doesn't doesn't have an exact release date, but that one was really good news. There's a demo, there's a freaking PS5 demo, so I will take your feedback on that. I will be getting this day one on PS5 because I very much doubt we'll have many of those frame issues. I imagine we will have quite a few patches out by then, and fingers crossed the split screen. My name was of course Couch Coop. Get out there and play Voidbreaker. I may even download that demo myself, and I will see you down there.